Most of us as teenagers, with parents that were even remotely responsible, had this ongoing conversation about peer pressure. And usually the question sounded something like, well, why can't I fill in the blank with whatever behavior? Because all my friends seem to be doing it. And the absolutely epitome of rhetorical questions were, well, if all your friends jumped off a cliff, you wouldn't. Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast. 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. And yes, actually, I did jump off the cliff. Cliff diving with my high school girlfriend, Sharon Fukuda, and her family. South San Gabriel River, I believe it was. And her brother encouraged me, come up here. I was the only haole, the only white guy in this group of Hawaiian guys, all teenagers and some a little older, lined up across the cliff. It took 4 or 5 photographs to get a picture of us from the other side of the river. And just about the time I thought we were going to walk away from the edge of the cliff, they all jumped and we were all locked arm in arm. And we went all the way down, probably 30, 40 feet to the water. I landed in a big giant belly flop and with someone right in the middle of my back with their knee, which led to probably some of the worst back injury that I've ever sustained. It wasn't an immediate injury. It was just one of those strains that the next year when football started in 2-a-days, I paid for it and then eventually had to step off the football team because I just couldn't do it anymore. I went from being a nose guard to being a cheerleader. Basically, I rode with a pep squad. But the idea of jumping off the cliff was not my plan until everybody else did it. See, the question I'm asking today is, what is an influencer? If you'd asked me at that time in my life, is her older brother an influence in your life? I'd have been like, well, no. I mean, if I looked at the model of his life and looked at the model of my life, that's not really where I want to go. I wouldn't say that's a mentor, that's someone that I'm following. I wouldn't pay him to coach me or to train me or to teach me. But here I am on the cliff, about to do something absolutely insane because he encouraged me to do it. See, the reality of influence is that influence is a very powerful tool, especially when it's multiplied exponentially through the synergy of peer pressure. Whether it's political peer pressure or it's community peer pressure. See, people forget that words like the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, all of these are intended peer pressure campaigns. They're all designed for the purpose of moving the masses of crowd in one direction or another, to cause people to groupthink, to do what everybody else is doing, whether it's jumping off a cliff or going to a party or taking a drag on a marijuana cigarette. See, there are a whole lot of things in our popular culture through social media, as an example, that create influence, that give opportunity to influence to people that genuinely we would have never said, hey, let me give you the reins to my life. Let me give you the level of influence in my life that causes me to make financial decisions or time decisions or place decisions or relationship decisions. And yet, there's even a name for people who can cause other groups of people to buy a certain product, go to a certain place, do a certain thing, review a certain way, speak in a certain voice, share a certain attitude or behavior. And they call them influencers. Brands identify these influencers in a marketplace and they'll say, well, if such and such, Kylie Jenner, is an influencer in the world of cosmetics, if people buy cosmetics when she promotes them, then we should hire her to promote our brand because she's an influencer. Well, of course, Kylie got popular enough in the influence of brand that she realized, why should I be supporting anybody else's? I'll just create my own cosmetic line. And it has done her very well. Other influencers have done the same thing. Other influencers have created an entirely new marketplace. Influence has become a commodity. But if John Maxwell is right, leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less, then the truth behind the statement, we have influencers in the world of social media, should raise some alarm bells for us to ask the question, how do we decide who we let influence our life? Who are the influencers in our life? Are they the people with the money? Are they the people who have the great videos on Facebook that show the jet planes and the fancy cars and the fancy houses? Are those the people that influence us because of the amount of wealth that they've amassed, or the other people that they've supported? Is it about the customer base that they have, the client social proof? Is that how we choose who influences us? As leaders, we need to be grounded. We need to be a lot more like the lighthouse than we are like the ship at sea. We need to know who it is that influences us, and that, my friend, starts with our core values. So I'm just going to challenge you, in the same way I did with the respect exercise, to find the top 5 people in your life who influence you. And then ask yourself, why do I let them influence me? Is it because they're my boss, because they're my friend, because they're my family? Is it just because I like them, or they have a lifestyle that I want to imitate or mimic? And once you've chosen who those people are, then ask yourself, what is it about them that creates their level of influence in my life? Here's an example for you. I don't know if you love him or hate him. It's not the point of the question. The question is, does Donald J. Trump influence you? Does he influence your attitude? Does he raise up an ire in you or cause you to celebrate? Does he influence your buying decisions? Does he influence the places that you go or don't go? Does he influence the businesses that you buy from or don't buy from, the people that you enjoy or avoid? If the answer is yes, then he's an influencer in your life. Now the question is, why? And that's totally up to you. But I think there are people in your life who influence you for positive and for negative. People that you want to have influence in your life and people that you don't. But until you can understand how they influence you and why they have influence in your life, you'll never become an influence. And if you want to lead, no, leadership is influence. Nothing more and nothing less. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.